Okay, good evening, everyone. So this year, it's no secret that we have the interesting situation where Pesach falls out on Shabbos, and as a result, there is some shinuyim, some changes to our normal seder of preparing for Pesach and a normal seder of Erev Pesach. And so we want to try to go through now whatever we can, as Hashem's. There are a lot of details, but we'll try to give over the relevant details as Bez Hashem as clearly as we possibly can, and with maybe just a little bit behind some of the inyanim. Okay, so let's start with Bedikas Chametz. So typically, everybody knows you learn Pesachim. It's the first Mishnah, or you do Bedikas Chametz the night going into the 14th, which is Erev Pesach. This year, being that the 14th is Leil Shabbos, and Leil Shabbos, so the Bedika gets moved back to Leil Yud Gimel, which is Thursday night. Now, and that means the Bedika with a bracha. Normally, the halacha is if you're making the Bedika Bizmano on the night of Erev Pesach, you're bodig with a bracha. If you're going out of town so that you have to make the Bedika sometime earlier, you do the Bedika without a bracha. So normally, if you would do the Bedika on the night of the 13th, it would be without a bracha. This year, it's not that way. This year, the Iker Mitzvah, the Iker Chiyuv, is to do it Leil Yud Gimel. No, it's Thursday night, a week from tonight. That is the Zman, the Iker Zman for Bedikas Chametz, and you bodig with a bracha. If you're doing it any earlier, if you're leaving town and you're bodig on an earlier night, then you do it without a bracha. In any case, you do the Bedika, and after the Bedika, you say the regular Kol Chamir v'Chamir that you normally say at night. The one at night is you're saying anything that I didn't notice, that I'm unaware of, I'm being mevatel. The chametz that I'm aware of, I'll take care of it. But the chametz I'm unaware of, I'm being mevatel, so you do that Thursday night after the Bedika. People that are going out of town, and we know typically it's a maila, not an absolute chiyuv, but it's a maila to do what they call the early mechira, to arrange with the Rav an early mechira. Should do that this year as well, and maybe we'll hold on 1 second when we get to Mechiras Chametz. We'll go back to that. Okay, so that's Bedikas Chametz with Kol Chamira. Now, burning the chametz. So in a regular year, we know whatever chametz you found during the Bedika plus whatever other bread you have around, you imkaim a mitzvah of sreifas chametz, bir chametz al yidei sreifa on the morning of Erev Pesach. The morning of Erev Pesach before the Zman Isser. The Zman Isser of owning chametz is by the end of the 5th hour. So you make sure to do the sreifa by that time. After that, if you still own chametz, you're being over an Isser. This year, technically, it shouldn't be necessary because you can own chametz the whole day. In fact, you very likely will own chametz the whole day until Shabbos morning by the end of the 5th hour. So technically, the sreifas chametz you should have all day. Halacha l'maisa though, we don't do that. We do sreifas chametz by the same time we do it every other year, meaning it's a day early, of course. We're doing it on Yud Gimel, on Friday, which is Yud Gimel Nisan rather than Yud Daled. But we're still being makbid to do it before the end of the 5th hour because we don't want confusion. Because if you're going to push it off and do it later in the afternoon, might come next year and somebody will forget and say, yeah, I remember we burnt the chametz at 4 p.m. No problem. I have plenty of time. Forgetting that, last year was unique. Last year it wasn't Erev Pesach, and this year it is. So in order to avoid takalas for future years, the halacha is the chametz should be burnt by the regular zman that you would burn it any other year, just of course on the day early on Friday, rather than Erev Pesach being Shabbos. If you didn't burn the chametz yet, okay, l'maisa, you still could burn it, or you could be mekayim the mitzvah, you still can mekayim the mitzvah of sreifas chametz any time before Shabbos. Now, normally, in a regular year by sreifas chametz, then after you burn it, you say the second kol chamira, at which point you mevatel everything, any chametz, whether I know about it, don't know about it. At this point, I endeavor to get rid of all my chametz. In case I didn't, I'm mevatel and mafker everything. This year we don't do that. This year, with shas sreifa, you do not say the kol chamira because you're still allowed to own chametz, and you very well, again, might be eating chametz the rest of the day and even Shabbos morning, as we'll see, as Hashem. So we don't say that kol chamira. I'll just mention now that you will say that Shabbos morning before the end of the 5th hour, before the sof zman sreifas chametz or owning chametz. That's on Shabbos. That's when you'll say the kol chamira the second time. I did see in one of the Svarim, now I think as I mentioned it, some people have they say the Hiratzim printed in the Haggadahs or Machzerim, that when you burn the chametz, Kishem Shebearti the chametz, I want to be mevar the chametz Shebalibi, the Sahara. So I saw someone say that you could say Friday morning when you burn the chametz. You could say that Yehiratz in the regular time. You don't say. Now, if you end up saying Kol Chamira Friday morning out of rote, or it's not the end of the world. I mean, but you still say it again Shabbos morning because you're still likely to be keeping chametz. Okay, mechiras chametz. Now, mechiras chametz. So also usually is done before the end of the fifth hour because you want to get rid of any chametz you want to sell away any chametz that you might not have destroyed. So here you'd say, okay, so again maybe the same thing. We should make sure to do it early in the morning. Now, by the way, this is mostly for the Rabbanim. For the average person who's not selling his chametz directly to a guy, he's employing the services of the Rav, which is the way it should be done because there are a lot of intricacies in mechiras chametz. So anyway, you just do it. You're not waiting. Hopefully, you're not waiting for the last minute. Anyway, you're doing it anytime before, so it's not really any differences. But just to understand, mitzad the Rabbanim who are doing the actual kinyanim with the guy. So you're probably thinking, okay, so they should do it also in the morning so that we don't make a mistake for next year. So it's true. And in practice, that's what happens. But it's not as kavua de gazach as it is by Shreifas Chametz, because the whole Mechiras Chametz isn't as kavua. Mechiras Chametz is not an institution. You're not going to find it in, you'll find there is a Siman Shulchan Aruch about Mechiras Chametz, but it wasn't a takana. You don't have to sell chametz. It was a method that people, especially people that own a lot of chametz, people that are in business and own a lot of chametz, and it's difficult and it's a big hefset to destroy everything. So they were masakin this idea. They allowed, and the poskim and the chronim paved the way of selling the chametz so that you could avoid having to destroy it. And as years went on, everybody, the Stam Balabatim also began doing that. But it's not like a takana kavua that we could say you must do it in the morning. In practice, in reality, yes, the Rabbanim do take care of it in the morning by and large, because otherwise if somebody calls them up on Friday afternoon and says, or Friday morning, when's the last time I sell my chametz? And they'll say, well, Lamaisa, I'm meeting the guy at 5 p.m. Shabbos is 7:30. I'm meeting the guy at 5 p.m. So okay, Baruch Hashem, I still have time. Some people are last minute people, not too many, but some people. So I still have time. Baruch Hashem, I still have time. And okay, and he does. And then next year he'll knock on the Rav's door at 4:45. He says, "This year I'm early, Rabbi. It's only 4:45. You're not doing it until 5 o'clock, right?" And he'll say, are you kidding? You didn't sell your chametz? It's all asabana. Or, you'll ask a shayla if it is or isn't. But it's much too late, because on a regular year, if you don't sell your chametz by the subsman achila, subsman beer, then pashtus, it's too late to do anything about it. So therefore, in reality, in practice, most of the Rabbanim will take care of mechiras chametz in the morning. But the shah is like this. So they're selling the chametz on Friday, and that means, we'll see as we go on, that you're going to have shalosh sudas, 3 sudas on Shabbos, and the Iker way, at least, is with chametz, using at least for Lechem Mishnah. So they say, well, what's going on? I sold the chametz to the guy. I just sold it to the guy, and now I'm eating the chametz, or maybe I'm even going to the store and Friday afternoon at 2 o'clock and buying chametz. They say the Rav sold the chametz at 11 o'clock, and how's this happening? So this big shayla in the poskim, how should the Rabbanim deal with the mechiras chametz? And we'll just do this briefly, because this, as I said, the average person doesn't make enough community to you, as long as you deal with a Rav that you trust. But just to have a shtickle behind the scenes. Technically, the first idea would be, well, why don't we simply do the Maisa Kinyan with the guy on Friday, and be masned that it should be chal on Shabbos at whatever time. Let's call it 11 o'clock, just roughly. But you do the Maisa on Friday, and say the chalos, the Kinyan should only be chal. You can make a Kinyan chal later. It doesn't have to be chal b'shas Maisa. It can be chal later. So let it be chal tomorrow, Shabbos morning at 11 o'clock. So Zakir Kiveger, that he's talking in general, but by Zakir Kiveger, no, he has a shayla. Are you allowed to do that in general? Are you allowed to make a Maisa Kinyan on a bimos chol that it should be chal on Shabbos? Or is that gufa a form of mekul chamamkar on Shabbos that the Kinyan is chal on Shabbos? Zakir Kiveger, and I think it's in Kufna, they wrote it down, Kufna Tes, I think. Yeah, Kufna Tes. And then Shuvas, Shal Shuvas Simon Kufna Tes. And he comes out that you can't do it. It's awesome. You can't make a Kinyan chal on Shabbos. So, now, if a chi tamo, well, but why not? I mean, we set up a lot of malacha. We turn on lights on Friday, and they burn through Shabbos. So I did the Maisa on Friday, and the Chalo, whatever. The result, the consequence of the results of my Maisa is happening on Shabbos. Many people even use time clocks. Rav Moshe has a famous tshuva where he's opposed to time clocks, b'derech klal, for various reasons, but even he's masking you could use them for lights. So we do a lot of malacha. We set up a lot of malacha on Friday that happens on Shabbos. So why should mekach memkar, which is a derabbanan, why should that be worse? Why can't I set up the kinyan on Friday and let it be chal on Shabbos? What's taka pshat? Why? Rikivega brings a raya that it's usher, but what's pshat? Why is it usher? So the Avnei Nezer in the tshuva in Siman Nun Aleph in Archaim says just a short word. He says that by malacha you set it up, and then you're totally out of the picture. It happens completely by yourself. Let's say, if like Rahman al-Islam, the person was nifter, person set a time clock on Friday or turned on his lights, and he was, unfortunately, he was nifter on Friday. It's still going to happen on Shabbos. He doesn't have to be there. Once he did the mice on Friday, he's no longer involved in any respect, in any way. It's going to happen totally on its own. Mashay Kinyan, it's not that way. If you do the Maisa Kinyan on Friday with the guy or with anybody, you make a Maisa Kinyan on Friday, and should be Chal on Shabbos, if by the time the Kinyan is supposed to be Chal, the person is no longer with us, then it's not going to be Chal. It's not Shayach. If the person isn't living, the Kinyan can't be Chal. He doesn't even own the chametz anymore, right? It belongs to his yarshim, and so you can't have a kinyan without the individual being there. So Zak Avnei Nezer, that would be the pshat. Even though you're not doing anything, your physical involvement is over on Friday before Shabbos, but you're still involved. The kinyan's only being chal because of you. If you're not there, there's no kinyan. Memela says that's why it's worse than malacha. Okay, so we can't do it that way. We can't make it chal on Shabbos. So now Elamai. Just the other possibility as well, maybe make a kinyan with the guy and be masna that what am I selling? I'm selling you right now any chametz that's still going to remain tomorrow. Right now the person has 2 pounds of chametz. I don't know how much is going to be around tomorrow, Shabbos morning 11 o'clock. Whatever remains tomorrow morning 11 o'clock should be nimker. I mean that is the kinyan. It's all chal now. It's chal now, but it'll be niskal l'mafreya what it's chal on. So the problem with that is it's coming on to breira. It has to be nispar l'mafreya, coming on to breira, and coming on to breira for what's at least potentially a daraisa. We're not samich on breira for daraisas, right? Those you get in the other mesechtas, Erev we're samich on daraisa on breira only for derabbanans, not for daraisas. And here it's a shal of a daraisa bal yirah. Now you might say, well, bittul, okay, but so it depends if the chametz that you're selling is included in the bittul or not. L'maisa, it involves a shal of a daraisa bal yirah, and therefore many poskim can say that's not the best way to do it. There are two roots in why it would taka work. The Marsham says teretz, Rosh Hashanah says teretz, but you won't go into that now. But the way it's done lamaisa, the way Rosh Hashanah's miyaitz and the Raya brings it down for Rav Moshe as well, and this is the pashut way is that the Rav makes the kinyan with the guy a Friday morning at 11 o'clock or thereabouts, and he makes it completely. He sells everything, all the chametz. Both the Maisa Kinyan, the Chalos, everything happens right now and includes all the chametz. And Lamai then, he tells the guy, look, it's very possible, with your permission, it's very possible that, and I can almost guarantee you that people are going to want to use some of the chametz they sold. They're still going to want to use before the holiday begins. And Lamaisa, if the guy wants at the end of the day or at the end of Yom Tif, if the guy taka wants to follow through and buy the chametz, they're anyway going to rechazech the cheshbon of how much he owes is going to be based on what's around then. Anything that gets eaten before, he's not going to pay for anyway. He's not paying. They're not determining a price now. He just makes a down payment, and the cheshbon of how much he taka owes will be done after Yom Tif if he decides to keep the kinyan kayim. So Memela, he's not losing, as he's not being cheated, he's not losing anything, and the fact that you're taking it, the salet, that itself is not considered mekach or memkar. Shlomo Zalman brings an alicha shlomo. You're not speaking with anybody about a purchase. You're not talking about money, and you're not doing anything. You're not doing any ma'isa other than eating the chametz, which taka wasn't yours, and now you're taking it. Lamaisi says mutter to do that. So that is the way it's typically done. The mechira is done in Gansin on Friday morning with everything. And as I said, the Rav speaks out to the guy that certain things that are being sold, the person is going to take back, and at the end of the day, you won't be charged for them. Okay, so that's what happens with the mechira. Now, if again a person neglected to sell his chametz, or he was unable to sell his chametz before the regular zman, as long as it's still before Shabbos, and he definitely should contact the Rav, and maybe the Rav might be able to accommodate him, and it'd still make a mechira with the guy. So because again, it's not like a regular Erev Pesach where if you didn't sell it by the Zman Isser, it's already Aseh B'Hana, so it's a Shaila, it's not even sellable because it has no damim, and it's already you have no reshus, you have no bailas, it's ain't a reshus, so it's not that way. It's not just Yud Gimel Nisan. You own the chametz and it has Shavuos and v'chulu. So if you didn't by any mikra, you didn't sell it before the Zman, so contact the Rav and see if he's able to still accommodate you. Okay. Now, so now I said people that are going out of town. So in a regular year, if they're going out of town and they don't want to do a bedikas chametz in their whole house, their house not being used, nobody's staying in their house, it's just going to be closed up for the Gansi Yontif. So many people will include at least the majority of the house in the mechira. They'll rent it to a guy and they'll only do a bedika on one room. The merits or disadvantages of that is not for now right now, but Lamaisa, it's a davar nafutz, it's very widespread, and many Rabbanim will therefore make two mechiras. Why two mechiras? Because if Lamaisa you're doing that and you're not doing a bedika on, let's say, 90% of your house, and you're including it in the mechira, meaning it's going to be rented to the guy, so it's like some achronim, you have to do that before the shas bedika, before the chiyav bedika, which is normally leil yudalid. Because once it comes the leil bedika, even if you're selling it tomorrow, but now you have to be voting. You own it now. You're planning on selling it tomorrow. Very nice, but now you own a house. It's a chiyuv bedika is chametz. Oh, there's a chayv Mishnah brings down some for that. Held not like this, and so halacha ma'is. It's not muchach to do this, but it's a mila. It's definitely a mila, and most Hamish communities you'll have this. They'll have this. Opportunity to make an early mechira. So the Rav makes, instead, besides the mechiras chametz that he does on Erev Pesach at 11 in the morning, he does another mechira the day before that at 6 p.m. or whenever it is for the people, so that by the time by the time it comes night and the shas bedika, it's already rented out to the guy. So this year it's the same, even though it's a day back. But again, the chiyuv bedika is Thursday night. It's not Friday night this year. It's Thursday night. So if you're going out of town, you still want to try to take advantage, if you can, of the early mechira, so that when this shas bedika comes, it's already rented out to the guy. Okay. So now what we need to discuss is the main shaila that people want to know, and that is how to be makayim properly the mitzvah of eating three sudas on Shabbos. Now, that statement itself, by the way, makes an assumption. The assumption that you're chayiv to eat three sudas on Shabbos Yudal of Nisan. So you say, well, what am I talking about? Why in the world wouldn't you be? Kamat, almost everyone holds you are. Everyone holds you chayiv in the first two sudas. There is, just to share, there is a das yachid that you're not mechuyev in the third suda on Erev Pesach because of the difficulties in being mekayim it, at least with lechem, as we'll see. So there's a day they bring the Zohar seems to, at least in one place, seems to hold this way. That's the way it's brought. That's where it comes the idea of Shimon Bar Yochai that he would be yotzi with divrei Torah instead of eating. They bring a meiri that holds like this. Okay, but this is not the main shita. The main shita is that you chayiv in all three sudas on Erev Pesach Yudalad Nisan like you are any other. On Shabbos. On Shabbos Yudalad Nisan same way you would be chayiv in Shabbos any other date in the calendar. So, in order to understand how to become the three sudas, let's just first go through what's mutter to eat on Erev Pesach in general, and what's asur to eat on Erev Pesach. So, okay, we'll start with chametz. On Erev Pesach, you're allowed to eat chametz, certainly the night of Erev Pesach, and the morning as well, until Sof Zman Achilas Chametz, until the end of the fourth hour. This is an hour earlier than the Zman of the Sreifa. At the end of the fourth hour, you're allowed to, which is basically Sof Zman Tefillah, just that for tefillah itself, we're samich when necessary on the sheet of the Gra in terms of figuring out the time. When it comes to Chilas Chametz, we typically machmer for the Magen Avram, so it's a few minutes earlier, but it's basically Sof Zman Tefillah L'Shitas Magen Avram. So you're allowed to eat chametz until 4 hours in the day. You're allowed to. I'm sorry, I did not look up the times for the local times, but they're very easy to identify, probably on almost every luach. Till you're allowed to eat chametz until that zman itself, zman chilas chametz, and 4 hours till that. After that, you can't eat chametz the rest of the day until after Yantav. That's as far as chametz is concerned. What about matzah? So there's a halacha that matzah sheyotzim ba yidei chovas achila balayla, matzah which you could use to eat at the seder and be makayim the mitzvah of be'erev tochlu matzahs, you're not allowed to eat on Erev Pesach. In order that you should be nichnas to the seder to eat matzah b'tei avon, it shouldn't be something that you've just just ate and don't have so much of a interest in. So you're not allowed to eat on Erev Pesach. And we know the Chazal say kol ha'ochel matzah ber Pesach kilu bal risasa beis chamav. You're not allowed to eat matzah ber Pesach. Now, when does that start? So it definitely applies the whole day, meaning definitely from Alos HaShachar through the day, meaning Shabbos morning, early Shabbos morning, that Isser definitely begins. Does it begin even at night, the night before, Leil Yudalad, meaning Friday night, is it usher to eat matzah then as well? So according to Rav Shita, it is not usher. Most days hold that it's mutter to eat at night. Isser only begins in the morning. There is a Magen Avram. The Magen Avram, I think I forget now where it is. Magen Avram is mashma that is Tafayin Aleph. Tafayin Aleph Sukhan Vav. The Magen Avram is mashma that the Isser begins at night. The Chok Yaakov is medayik this way from the Magen Avram. The Machzor Shekel brings it that even at night you can't eat matzah. Okay, so there's a mile to be yotzi that shita, but make her a din if a person had to, they could eat it at night. Now some people have a minhag anyway; they don't eat matzah beginning even Rosh Chodesh Nisan, and some people even back from Shloshim Yom from Purim don't eat matzah. So then you certainly wouldn't eat it Friday night either. But here we're talking about moment adin. It's an Isser d'Rabbanan. It's an Isser d'Rabbanan to eat on Erev Pesach. So Pashas that begins in the morning. Okay, so that's chametz and matzah. What about other forms of matzah, which we call matzah, but matzah which you could not be yotzei the mitzvah with at night? Matzah which is not the lechem oni that you makayim the mitzvah. L'mashal matzah ashira. We call egg matzahs, right? Matzah that's made with mei peros, so that it could be made theoretically kosher l'Pesach, but you still would not be able to be yotzei the mitzvah at night. So the Isser of eating egg matzah, the Isser of eating matzah on Erev Pesach doesn't apply to egg matzah. Mitzad the Hilchas Isser, mitzad the Isser of matzah, this is not matzah. Matzah means the matzah that's right for the Seder. This matzah is not right for the Seder. So you can eat Erev Pesach. Now, could you eat it all day? So the answer is no, because at least it looks like we have a predominance of Ashkenazim here. When I spoke at the other call, I had to speak a little bit different. It's this is one place where it's much different. But when it comes for Ashkenazim, we hold that a regular, healthy Ashkenazic Jew is not allowed to eat matzah ashira on Pesach. We don't eat because of various chashas that if a little, even though mei peros are not machmitz, but if a little water gets what's in it, can be machmitz miyad. So we have a minhag nofetz in all kilos Ashkenaz, or at least in our kilos Ashkenaz, that we don't eat matzah ashira, even if it's made, kosher Pesach, we don't eat it on Pesach. So if we don't eat it on Pesach, we treat it. Ktanim can eat it, chaylim, zakanim, but regular, Ashkenaz don't eat it. So we treat it klape achila. We treat it like chametz, meaning vis-a-vis what time, till starting when you can't eat it. We treat it like chametz, and we don't eat, once you can't eat chametz at 4 hours in the morning, Erev Pesach, you can't eat matzah shira either. Now, this is a machlokas achronim, not all the chron holos says, another bihud, or chashulchan, etc., but lemaisa, that's lemaisa. Lemaisa, we do not eat matzah ashira after 4 hours in the day, Erev Pesach. So the last thing to discuss about eating is, by the way, that's true with kitnius also. Kitnius is not going to help you for lechem anyway, but for kitnius also, once we don't eat chametz, we don't eat kitnius under normal circumstances. The last thing to discuss about eating is matzah, regular kosher Pesach matzah, not lechem oni, which you were mavashel. The halacha is if you're mavashel matzah, you can't eat it. You're not yotzei at the seder either. You're not yotzei be'erev tochel matzah. It's matzah mivushelis. So it's kosher Pesach, and it's not roy for the Seder, so l'chara, great, you should be able to eat that on Erev Pesach. And that's taka true, that you can eat a Pesach even after the Zman Isser Chametz. Of course, people that don't eat gebrachs, so that's out. They're not going to eat it when they can't eat chametz. They're not going to eat matzah muvushalas either. But people that do eat gebrachs, then you could eat matzah muvushalas even past the Zman Isser Achilas Chametz. In fact, you could eat it technically all day. I mean, after the Sha'asiris, the last 3 hours in the day, you're not supposed to eat. You're not supposed to fill up because you're supposed to have in general, the first Mishnah of Pesachim. So then you don't eat it, or certainly don't eat any significant amount of it at all. But in terms of most of the day, you can eat it. You don't have to worry about Sovzman Achilas Chametz. And again, this is according to most Acharonim. There is also a day of the Gra and others that you shouldn't eat matzah muvushalas on Erev Pesach, but the Mishnah Berurah, as well as others, go with the halacha that it is mutter. Okay, so now, so that having been said, so let's see. So we have to Mekayim Suda Shabbos, 3 Suda Shabbos. So Friday night Suda, you could definitely eat chametz, and that's really the most recommended method. The only thing is, of course, you have to be very careful with it. Now, what I mean is as follows. When I say eat chametz, I'm talking about the lechem. Theoretically, you can eat the whole meal chametz stick, but that's really not kedai, because if you're going to make a food and a chametz stick of food and eat a chametz stick of kalim, you're not allowed to wash them on Shabbos. You're allowed to clean them off a little. It says you clean them with your finger and etc. But you can't really wash them properly. You're going to be putting them away then for 9 days. And Mistama, even if you'd be masking, but your wives won't be masking to do that. And so it's not practical really to make the other foods chametz stick and to eat them a chametz stick. You can eat them on disposable, etc. And if someone wants to do this, I'm not closing the door and it can be done. But the more practical eitzah, by then Mistama, your kitchen is all Pesach dik, everything's Pesach dik. The only thing you're going to want to be mashar, the only chametz is going to be the lechem, the small controlled amount of lechem that you're going to eat to be yotzei lechem mishnah, to be yotzei Suda Shabbos. But everything else is most likely going to be Pesach dik, and that's the recommended method. So when you eat the challah, obviously you want to be careful that it doesn't mix with any Pesach machalim, certainly any Pesach machalim that you're not going to finish that day, that you're going to put back in the refrigerator and going to be around the Pesach. And in general, you don't want crumbs or pieces bigger than crumbs to go to be nispazer and end up in your house, which you spent a couple of weeks cleaning and being bodek. So you eat it very carefully. Take a disposable napkin, or maybe a plastic tablecloth, disposable tablecloth, and you eat before bringing the other food to the table. You just after you make kiddush, you eat the challah, and you should make a cheshbon before Shabbos, approximately how much you can need, so that you don't end up with extra, unnecessarily extra. If you can eat something that's creates fewer crumbs, of course these things are all milas, but whatever it is, you eat it over the napkin, and when you finish, you take that, and you dispose of all the crumbs. You could dispose of them in the toilet, the crumbs, and the napkin itself. Well, I don't know if that can go. You can consult your plumber. That probably shouldn't go there, especially in Florida. It's not a good idea. When too many emergencies come up on Yontiv and Cholamoy that the plumbing system is broken. Can I get a guy to come, 20 seconds before Yontiv? So you probably don't want to do that. But you could put it in the cans that we have here. Here, at least in this neighborhood, the cans did not belong to us. And certainly, if it's off your rishus, the best thing is just you leave the outside garbage can, leave it on the swale, which you're probably going to want to do anyway because there's a pickup on Monday, which is going to still be yontiv. You're not going to be able to move it, when Shabbos starts, and you'd miss it. So even assuming you're samech on the Erev, not samech on the Erev, this is not an eitzah. But if you're samech on the Erev, so then you take the napkin out there and just put it into the can. If for whatever reason you can't do it down the toilet or in the can, you could do it really on the ground. You could do it on the ground outside, or again, if you don't want to carry it outside, the halacha says you could just shake it out on your own floor. Just take out the little crumbs, just crumbs. Because pirurim mela batli, you could do that. It's a mila to sweep them up afterwards, it says, and to try. But the point is, once it's down to pirurim, so you do your best to get rid of them, but there's not such a pachad of where they're ending up, as long as they're not ending up anywhere near your food. If they're ending up on the floor or something, you're not going to be over bal yirah on pirurim ba'alma. So you definitely do your best to get rid of them, as I said, in the toilet or other method. Then once the challah is all gone, then you bring the rest of the food out. Now, some people even will, if they have this possibility, this potential, they'll eat at a different table, the challah, maybe outside in the backyard or something like that, and then move over to eat the Pesach cholam on the regular dining room table. Now, if you do that and you eat at two separate points, so it becomes a discussion of whether you need to make a bracha now on the other machalim, and really even if you don't move, even if you took away all the lechem, and now you're eating other machalim, so there is a discussion. I call it a discussion. I want to call it a shaila, a discussion in poskim if you have to make a bracha on the other machalim because it was already like in a sense like silik yadim min apas. L'maisa, many poskim say you do not have to make a bracha on the other machalim. It's not like you ate your whole meal and now you're eating something incidental or secondary. You're eating the whole meal, even though you don't have lechem anymore, but you're still eating the whole ikar suda. So it doesn't. It's tougher to the pas. You don't have to make a separate bracha. The only shaila is where do you bench? If you started at one location and then you move to a different location, so where do you bench? So if the halacha always is if you move from one place to another and the second place you ain't a row makom harishon, you can't see the first place that you ate, then if you eat no lechem whatsoever at the second place, then you can't bench there. You have to go back to the first place and bench if you ate no bread at all. If you ate even a small amount of bread in the second location, you could bench there. It doesn't have to be a kazayis, even a small amount of bread. Now, the whole idea of starting outside is because you don't want to have any bread inside. But some people will smuggle in, maybe just a small piece of bread, maybe even in the mouth or something, but with still kayim, and then eat it in the inside. And this way, you ate a small piece of bread inside, you could bench inside. If it's not a tircha, though, so then just go back outside to bench. You don't have to be a smuggler. Just you finish the lechem outside and bring none of it inside, and you go back outside and you bench outside. Okay, so that's the Friday night meal. Not super complicated. The only idea is that you be careful with the chametz, that it doesn't become nisarif with other food. Now, during the day, it's a little bit more complicated, only because now we're working against the clock. During the day, you can't eat chametz past the sof zman, past 4 hours. So you have to finish the suda by then, and then if you're only going to eat one suda by then you'll be a shiloh. How are you going to be mekayim the third suda, which you have to be mekayim like ruba the deis. So if you look in Hilchos, Shlishos and Shabbos, you'll see that lechatchila it should be with pas. It's shaykh to be yotzi with other foods. Mechaber brings down a whole list of progression, but lechatchila it should be with pas. So since it should be lechatchila with pas, so we want to try to eat two sudas in the morning. Two sudas by the time you finish, between the time you finish davening and sof zman achilas chametz, you want to have two sudas. And the Magen Avram's, this is the Magen Avram's Eitzah, or suggestion. Mishnah Berurah makes it down also that, and many poskim do, that you should try to have two sudas in the morning. So to have two sudas in the morning, you would the most practical way is come home. Obviously, the shuls are going to daven early, so you'll be home relatively early. You have the first suda just basically of challah, and you have one other thing, a fish or a salad, something else to go along with it to make it epis suda, not just lechem yevesha umayim. And then you bench, and then you can't just say, okay, you bench, now let's wash again. You can't do that because there would be a big shaila of bracha and tzricha, because to just split up the meal that way, and like we know a whole year you don't make a bracha achron and then almanas to make a bracha rishana. So you have to make a hefsek. So the hefsek, the Chazon Ish says it should be a half an hour hefsek. They say it could be a little bit less than a half hour, especially if you're running and you have to keep your eye on the clock, and it could be a little bit less than a half hour. The smaller the hefsek, the more you should try at least to do something else. Then maybe take a walk outside in between, or be osik and sit down and learn the first two prakim of Mishnayos Pesachim, or whatever exactly you do. Something to make a real hefsek. You're not just sitting around waiting. Okay, let's wash again. And then, as I said, if possible, if the time allows, wait a half hour. Then you wash again, and once again have lechem mishnah and lechem. The amount that you have to eat each time is like every Suda Shabbos, slightly more than a kabetz. It means 2 kazesim plus a drop. Lechatchila, that's how you should have Suda Shabbos. And do the same thing each of these Sudas. Of course, again, the same caution with the crumbs and with the napkins and the plastic tablecloths, whatever you do to make sure the crumbs don't mingle. And then you make sure to finish the challah safely within sof zman achilas chametz. Then get rid of everything. Make sure that everything's gone. Any chametz that you left over is gone. If you thought you were expecting 2 more guests, and now you have 2 other challah rolls or 4 other challah or whatever you have that didn't get used. So if you're accustomed to selling chametz gomer, so then you could put that away wherever you put away your chametz, because it was sold, right? Remember, the Rav said with the guy, I'm selling all the individuals' chametz, except, he might take some to eat in the meantime, but these 2 rolls he didn't take. He didn't take them. He thought he was going to use them. He didn't use them, so they're part of the mechira. So you could theoretically put them away, but for people that don't want to do that, there's no room for chametz in their house anymore, or they don't sell chametz gomer. So you take them and crumble them up, and before you enter the bathroom, do this. Have in mind, mitzvahs say deraisa shall be your chametz. You can't do it b'sreifa, but you can do it b'chol midi. Anyway, you can take it and crumble it up and down the toilet. Certainly, if you're not doing it down the toilet, if you're putting it outside in the can, definitely crumble it up. Make it into small pieces, much less than exercise, and just piruim and crumble the whole thing up. And don't worry about ibur eichlim. You're doing, as I said, you try to plan how much you can need. But if you ended up with more, you have a mitzvah now to destroy it. And if it goes into the bottom of that can, of that garbage can, the cans are filthy at the bottom. It's mamish mos legamri. Besides that, you don't own the can and everything. It's not in your rishus, but it's totally mos. It would be batul mavutul. And so make sure at that point all the chametz is gone. Everything. Think through if you had anything that you left over to eat and you forgot about, etc. And then say kol chamira v'chamira. The second kol chamira, which you did not say b'shas sreifas Shabbos on Friday, say it then. And before, you really have you don't have to say before the Sov Zman Achila, you have till Sov Zman Beer, but obviously you shouldn't sit down to your Shabbos Suda and then you'll forget to say it. So say it right away after you do that last beer chametz of getting rid of all the crumbs. Say kol chamir v'chamir, and then you could sit back down to your table now with totally Pesach Dikam Achalim, nothing else but Pesach Dikam Achalim, and you can enjoy your Shabbos Suda in a more leisurely fashion. That's the main way, I say, the ikka way of doing it. Now, if for those who, for whatever reason, don't consider this an option, whether it's because some people say, I can't have chametz in my house after all the work I put into it's bad, especially I have small children, and how am I going to watch that a child doesn't grab a challah roll and plant it somewhere, which we'll find on the first day Yontif, whatever. For whatever reason, people aren't feel that they can't do that eitzah. So the other eitzah would be matzah ashira. Now, let me just say very briefly, there is a possible eitzah of matzah muvusheles. If you want to take a matzah when it's intact and cook it in a kli rishon and keep it intact. Some do that, but I don't think that's a widespread minhag, especially amongst Ashkenazim. But what is what many do who don't want to use chametz is they'll use matzah ashira, egg matzah, which again we said you can eat. Kol zman you can eat chametz, you can eat matzah ashira. The thing with the matzah ashira is though that the whole year round we make, and even Pesach, if someone is eating it, let's say a zaken or a chayla is eating it, they make a mazonos. Stam you eat matzah shira, egg matzah, you make a mazonos. You don't make a hamotzi. It's not bread. It's not real lechem. It's possible b'kisnin. It's not real pas. You don't make a hamotzi on it. So how does it come to Suda Shabbos? So the answer is there are 2 possible answers. One, that once you're eating it together with other machalim and you kaveh a suda on it, so then it gets the status of possible b'kisnin, which is for kviyah suda that becomes hamotzi and requires until shadaim and berachas hamazon. But besides, as Reb Moshe Tzal writes in a tshuva, I think it's in the first chelik of Rechaim Kuf Nun Hey, that because the chashivas of Suda Shabbos is kaveya, then it gives a chashivas lechem, and it can be considered lechem. So if you need to do that, you could use that. There is a shaila here in the poskim how much you would have to eat. But if you're going with Moshe Shitas, or the idea that the if you're eating it together with the other machalim and it's considered, then it's a possible b'kisna eating mamish together with fish and meat and whatever else. So then, at least according to the other tshuva Moshe has, you would only have to eat the amount that you would or normally eat if you were eating regular matzah. In other words, eat 2 kazais and plus, but you wouldn't have to have more. There are others that are chayla can say you have to have a shear of gimel or daled beitzim. But if someone wants, we could talk about that afterwards. But according to Moshe Shita, you'd only have to have this smaller amount. And now, when you do that again, now you still remember it's for Ashkenazim. It's after Zman Achilas Chametz you can't eat it, so you're still on the same time schedule. It doesn't give you any more leeway in terms of time. But in terms of crumbs, there's no risk about Yirah. You're allowed to own it, so you don't have to worry so much about. You don't want the crumbs to mix into your Pesach, the good food, unless it's something that you're finishing right now. If it's a piece of chicken, you're finishing it right now and throwing out. Okay, but if it's a kugel and you're putting back half the kugel in the refrigerator, you do obviously want to be careful that the egg matzah doesn't mix into your Pesach macholim, because we don't need it a Pesach. But it's less of it's not the same tirda perhaps as chametz gomer would be. Okay, now the chitema, if you'll ask a kasha and say, very nice, so I just mekayim two more, I suda Friday night, and I just had two more sudas, and now it's 11 o'clock in the morning, and I finished shalosh shudas. And then you say to yourself, or did I? Shalosh shudas, doesn't the halacha say that you can't eat shalosh shudas? You can't eat till half hour past chatzos. The earliest man for chiddush shalosh shudas is a half hour after chatzos. And here it's not even near chatzos. It's 2 hours to chatzos, and I finished shalosh shudas. How you talk? How could that be? How am I yotzi shalosh shudas? The teretz is lefi rov deis. You're right. Lefi rov deis, you aren't yotzi shalosh shudas. But the Magen Avraham brings from the Shulchan Giborim. It's questionable that Mar Makabeh is Shulchan Giborim ala Mordechai and the Bach B'Shem HaKolbo. There are poskim that say, Gedolei poskim say you could be yotzi shalosh shudas even in the morning. And since there's no option of eating shalosh shudas with bread later in the day, you can't have it. 6.5 hours a day, you can't have bread. So since there's no option of eating bread later, so we do it with mahader, and this is an important point, with mahader to eat shalosh shudas with bread at a time when when lefi rov deis we're not even being yotzei, and we're rushing, right? We're rushing to split up the meal and watch the clock and everything else to make sure that we can eat a third suda of bread on Erev Pesach, because maybe we're yotzei. So we like to be yotzei like those days. So mikan tochachas megulas. Sometimes there are people, some nobody in this room, but there's some people that aren't so makpid. In general, not so makpid. They have bread for shalosh shudas the whole year. They have whatever, they have a nice meal in the middle of the day, and that came after a nice kiddush. And shalosh shudas already sort of gets a backseat. And they'll eat something, and I've eat something, but to wash already, no, I don't think so. I don't think I want to wash. So, and here, you're bending over backwards to wash and have two sudas, rush and get them in, and keep more chal in your house for this, and eat it at a time when you're probably not even being yotzei. So this should teach us that the chashivas of eating bread for shalosh shudas. So not only next Shabbos should we do it, but we should do it this Shabbos and every Shabbos moving ahead. Okay, but l'maisa, since you're very likely not yotzei, so even though you did that, even though you split the meal, you should still eat something in the afternoon. Mincha will probably be around 6.5 hours, roughly, whatever it is. And after mincha, it could be before mincha too, but after 6.5 hours, you eat something l'shem shalosh shudas. It's not going to be bread and it's not going to be matzah, but you could eat a piece of fish. The Ramah says peiros, so basar v'dagim. You could eat a piece of fish, piece of meat, peiros. Eat something else to be able to say shalosh shudas. So at least you're eating shalosh shudas b'zman where l'kuli yama it's the right zman, even though it's without bread. If you do eat gebrachs, you could have matzah, you could have a knedlach or something of that sort. You could have cooked matzah. Now, just to be clear, matzah meal in other products, like in cakes and cookies, which has not been nisbashel, it wasn't cooked, it was just rebaked together with chocolate and nuts, that is not lechatchila to eat on Erev Pesach. That probably should not be eaten on Erev Pesach. But matzah meal, which was boiled, it's mevushels, that, according to the Mishnah Berurah and Rov Deis, you could eat that on Erev Pesach, and the meal that would be most mahudar for shalosh shudas, because at least you're eating a mazarnus, you're eating a mazarnus tigamaycha. But if that's too much, then you could have something else. Whatever it is, it should be before the end of the 9th hour. Shouldn't be the last 3 hours of the day, so that you have an appetite for the Suda. Okay. Okay, so that basically, let me just look at the list. Yeah. Okay, so I think that basically covers the main things. So we discussed the bedika and the sreifa and the mechira and the sudas and when to say kol chamira, etc. And then you have the rest of the day to say the Haggadah, to say Avadim Hayinu. Next Shabbos. In this particular kollel, if you're here, you'll be zeicha to a Shabbos Haggadah drasha. Most kehilas, the Shabbos Haggadah drasha is going to be tomorrow. But here, for technical reasons, it's not going to be tomorrow. It's going to be in a week. But Lamaisa, if you look in the poskim, the reason why it's moved up a week, you should say, well, why does anybody move it up? because the ikr of a Shabbos Hagadol dress is supposed to be the lamed, should learn Halachos Pesach, know how to kasher your kitchen and what to do with the seder. And if you're first being told how to kasher your kitchen next Shabbos, you're a little bit behind the game. So it's pushed up a week. Lamaisa nowadays, it's very much not like that. The Shabbos Hagadol dress very often is not to teach the practical. Aruch HaShulchan says this. Now everybody asks a Rav. You have a Shali, you ask a Rav. You don't wait till Shabbos Hagadol dress. So really says it could be next Shabbos. So in some kilos it's done that way. That'll be, so it says this particular year will be done that way as well. The Haftarah of Shabbos Hagadol is the next Shabbos, and that covers the main shilas. If everybody has a shilah afterwards, I'd be happy to try to help you.
Singer. Does anybody have the arm? Does anybody have the arm? I know. I mean, I have to. Unless somebody stops me. Only 3 1/2. The half. No way to toss over the head. No. I didn't even know. Well, the other two. The bird's not here. No stick. So if you go, yes. There's 8 minutes I ate and just go. 8 minutes like Adam Fall. Like a second and that, since I'm not answering, so I need to come out. Who's in charge of this? Parsons. Huh? The guy Parsons. You're in charge of this? Yeah. Can you send me a copy of this?